I see.
If you just go ahead and go to sau44.org, it will go ahead and show you a live stream on that page right when you get there. Okay, it's not live yet, but it will be live momentarily. As you can see up at the top, it says, well, now it says live. So, oh, hold on, I got to mute myself now.
Yeah, remind them to mute their phones.
Yeah, if you are live streaming and you want to call in, then you need to mute. You can't have both audios going at the same time.
Well,
Right.
Their phones are automatically muted, so they can't speak anyway. But what they might want to do is just mute their phone for themselves so that they don't hear it double, because there is a slight delay between, there's going to be a slight delay between the YouTube and what they hear of us if they're listening on their phone. So they should really be listening to it on YouTube. But if they want to make a public comment after, if they want to stay dialed in, that's fine.
Right.
So that they can make a public comment after.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll move on. We got student representative reports in our packet from students from both Dover and Co-Brown. Just to review really quickly for those that don't have them. They reviewed their time in remote learning, and it sounded like they were both doing well. Although I did notice a difference in tone between the senior writing and the younger student writing. I think maybe it was a little bit harder, for our seniors to have to kind of deal with the disappointments of the things that they missed. But so thank you to both of our student reps. And also, just so the board knows, the thank you cards and gifts went out in the mail.
Great, that's good.
So next on the agenda is the student services report.
As of right now, I pretty much shared my report with you at our joint board meeting. There hasn't been much change. Really, the major focus of the report is just to let you know at the current time, there hasn't been a lot of change in what I would recommend for ESY services due to the very important nature of keeping social distancing in place at this point, and the safety precautions that need to be met, and the transportation requirements, the building requirements. I still feel that it is strongly advised that we offer our ESY services remotely for this summer. There has been no true guidance that has come out from the state regarding ESY yet. There has been a draft proposal, but it's only for certain constituents. It's not for the public, just to offer feedback. So at this point, I still recommend that we go into, we deliver our ESY services via remote. The other thing that I wanted to just share is typically you would receive an update from me regarding student change and student enrollment. At this point, there's been no changes at the school levels indicating people have moved or moved in due to this situation that we're in. So there hasn't been an update census number, solely because there hasn't been a true change in student population from when this started to occur.
So the March 1st census that we received in our March packet, that's the same census?
Yes, that's the most accurate census at this point.
Okay.
Yep. Again, other than that, there's not much I have to share. I'd be happy to answer any questions if you do have any. We did look at how we would provide services through remote and the staffing that would be required, and we do feel that we can meet those needs. We are currently providing those services now via remote, as related services such as speech, OT, all of those things are already being delivered, and we feel as though we'll be able to continue to do that. And the good thing is I've checked with our staff, and if we do offer remote, most of our staff who normally don't do ESY for related services are willing to continue it to be remote, because it is such a hard thing to bring someone in that the students don't know. So that's a benefit too.
So all of the services that are noted in a student's IEP are currently being delivered remotely.
That's correct. They might not be delivered one-for-one as we had discussed, because it's not a one-for-one environment, but they are being delivered.
Except probably PT, you can't.
There's some PT being offered, some suggestions, some videos. It's not to the same extent, but it is there.
Okay. And then one quick question in terms of looking at our manifest. I know that we had talked about continuing to pay, our bus contract and so forth, because we didn't want to have an interruption or a lack of continuity. So I am seeing, looking at the manifest, that we are paying bus monitors and so forth for some of these services. So all of that has continued to be paid.
I'll look more closely into the ESY. I don't think that's something that is that's not a guaranteed contract. It's not like our normal school year. ESY is based off need a lot more than our regular contract. So that would change a little bit.
Can I clarify something?
Yep.
Nate, I think Mrs. Levinson's talking about the SLC bill.
Mm-hmm.
So we know that they're still delivering the instruction remotely, but I think on the manifest, the bus monitor charge is still showing up, even though we're paying the bus contract.
Right,
I
the
think that's
cost
what
of
she's
the bus
talking about.
and the monitors are all there.
Yes. I spoke with Mr. Rooning about that, and we discussed that keeping the service in place, they have discounted the rates, and this is something that we agreed if they were paying the bus drivers and keeping them staffed, we would continue to honor the contracts.
Yeah, but in this case, we're talking about the monitor for SLC. That's what we need you to check into. I don't think we talked about that.
Right,
Okay.
I was talking about the most recent manifest that we signed perhaps 2 days ago, 3 days
Yep.
ago. There were 4 invoices in there for what appear to be probably remote services for around 9,000, but then the monitor on the buses.
Okay, I will look further into it.
Thank you. I was just curious. I'm just trying to understand all of our costs as we move forward.
Yeah.
What's going to happen with the people that we hired for ESY? I know we had hired some people to come in and do ESY work. What will happen with them?
Well, we would pay them for the hourly rate that we had agreed upon, and we would make sure that they were delivering those services for that amount of time. So it's going to look a little different. They'll have to log their hours and how they're doing that, and that's how it would work for ESY.
So that we're going to keep the people who are currently delivering services, and then I know we hired people who aren't in our districts to come in and teach at ESY as well.
I would have to defer that question to Mr. Souza because I don't hire the ESY staff directly.
Oh, that might have been at the SAU.
We haven't hired anyone yet.
I think that was, I don't think you've hired anybody new, Kelly. I think that was the SAU, and it's not like they're unfamiliar staff. They're staff that works every summer.
Okay.
That was for the preschool.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that must be what I'm thinking. So they'll still come in and do remote services?
They'll do
Preschool-
remote services.
Yes, preschool's still going to offer remote services. And the good part about this is typically we would contract out to someone else. We'd hire someone else just to do preschool because the preschool teachers hadn't done it in the past. But our preschool teachers, because of the situation that we find ourselves in, feel as though they'll be able to offer better remote services and are willing to do so. So we would continue to utilize them for remote services.
And use the people that we hired?
We didn't hire.
I don't.
I know we
No,
hired
I'd have to
someone.
go-
She happens to be my special ed teacher. And I remember,
We hired her in the past. There was a name that we brought forward, but we have let that individual know that because of going remote, we would not be utilizing their services, and they knew that. Because we were
Okay.
hiring for an in-person if we did it, but the change in the structure was that it indicated that Miss LaValle has already reached out to that person. and
okay,
let
so we're
them
not
know.
going to have any new people. It's all going to be the people that are already doing it.
That's correct.
Good.
Okay, any other questions for Mr. Byrne? Okey dokey, so we can move on to the principal's report. Mr. Sousa?
Thank you. So just briefly looking through the report, we've been slowly giving things back to students who have, and families who might have left things here. We had distribution system. Jeff's been outstanding in being able to balance schedules, and we've had help from Pam and Jen, and we're maintaining all the social distancing and PPE that we need to keep it safe for everybody. Certainly, I would say this time of year is incredibly busy, and considering that we just cut 2 weeks off of the year to end on June 5, we're scrambling. So if we look calm, it's because we're like little ducks and our feet are paddling like mighty under the water. It's definitely stressful. People are running around getting everything done, but I think we're in a good place. We're on a good track. I have to say that, and I've said it before, our office staff and our custodial staff are just fantastic, and making sure everything happens. And of course, I think you know how awesome Jude and Jeff are. But Kevin and Chuck, everybody's really pitching in. It's definitely an all hands on deck approach. We released the guidance, not the guidance, but the graduation letter, the guidance for the graduation, which will be on June 3rd, yesterday to parents. So we're still tightening things up. The feedback, well, has been overwhelmingly positive. There were some concerns about the timing of it, but again, having everything moved up and trying to schedule it all in and please everybody and get everybody able to get there and do it has certainly been a juggling act. But I'm pretty happy with the amount of things that we could do to honor the kids. Jeff and I today made a video for the High Honors Tea. And although we originally had hoped, and I think Kristen, you had suggested doing some kind of Zoom, it just got just so busy for us, and some things had to kind of give. And I think they'll like it. It's a nice little video. We have a special guest, and we're sending those things out in the mail. So for everyone who achieved the highest honors for 3 quarters in a row, particularly one 8th grade student who did it for 5 years, they're going to get their packets in the mail. It should be tomorrow.
Awesome.
Yeah. What was it? I did include some information in there about some of the high school graduates. I think last time we talked about the signs that had gone up for 8th grade. We're bringing in staff this week after the holiday, Tuesday through Friday, to begin to shut down their classrooms. So we've, again, Jeff has started creating a schedule with staff and trying to accommodate their needs so that we can space everybody out in the building and then disinfect all in between. So we're trying, again, to keep safety first. I've talked to our school nurse, and we feel pretty good about the path we're taking, and it should enable us to close the building up on time. The last day of school for students and for staff, I think, is June 5. So we'd like to see if we can get everybody wrapped up by June 5. I'm sure we'll still have teachers coming in at the end, because we even do that no matter when we close typically. But if we get everybody done by that June 5 date, that would be wonderful.
Awesome.
We are interviewing next Tuesday for our library media specialist. We have 3 excellent candidates. And so we've set up Zoom interviews. I've got staff and administration to participate in those interviews. Hopefully we'll have a name. I feel confident we'll have a name at the next school board meeting for you. We have 2 paraprofessional openings. We've interviewed for 1. That paraprofessional was excellent. And we're hoping, she's got a wonderful background, and we're hoping to bring her on board. And again, that'll be something that comes due the next packet.
The paraprofessional openings that you had were for general or for specific?
Yeah, some of the paras are moving around. So originally it was for 2 paraprofessionals who had left. One was on some medical leave and had not returned, and the other one took a position at the town library. So those are the 2 special education paraprofessionals we had. Again, moving some things around. One of our paraprofessionals who was working in kindergarten is going to be working with one of our special ed students now, one-on-one. And so we're thinking that one of the ones we hire, we may hire specifically for kindergarten, or we may see if there's an existing paraprofessional who might want to go down, and not go down, but go work with kindergarten.
So I have a question for the board. I think in the past, we have discussed possibly having a larger role in the hiring process. I think in the distant past that we had a committee maybe where we had a member of the board that was on the hiring committee and would sit in on interviews and be a part of that process. And I don't think we've had that, at least not since I've been here, but I know I've heard people mention that they'd like to see a bigger role. So I don't know, going forward, what's the board's pleasure?
Oh, I agree. We've talked about it a number of times, and it seems like almost every time we've made a hire, we've talked about it. We speak about it again. So yeah, I think it's something that we've said that we wanted to do, and we have an opportunity to do it. So, unless we've changed our minds.
Right. So I see this happening or this possibly happening in a couple of different ways. I think we could nominate someone to be on the hiring committee, and that person would sit in on, you know, all interviews, or we could take it case by case. And when we have openings, we could determine who the person would be. I don't know how you guys want to.
I have a quick question, and it's directed to anyone. When do we normally find out that we have a position open? Because I don't know about the rest of you, but I'm now finding out that we have a position open.
Right. So you find out when I bring the resignation, which is in your packet for tonight. Audra sent her resignation letter on the 13th. So 7 days before, it was right after the packet went out.
We advertised for an anticipated opening.
Yeah, so I had an
Yeah, I saw that, and I meant to
Yeah, I
ask
had
about it the last
advertised an
meeting, I
anticipated
forgot.
opening. And then the next board meeting is right now, and I have a resignation in the personnel report.
Scott, please understand, I'm just
Oh.
asking about procedure. That's
Yeah,
all.
I mean, generally, it depends when we get the letter from the person, right? If we get the letter from the person before the packet goes out, we'll get it into the packet. If not, it's gonna come with me.
Right.
Or it's gonna go into the next packet.
Part of the reason that I'm asking is because I think if we are not a part of crafting the announcement or crafting the position, I think that's a great time for us to stop and think about like what it is that we want going forward. And again, I'm just one person. I don't know what the other 4 board members think, but I always see that hiring as an opportunity for us to think about, you know, how does that fit in with our goals and our objectives for the next year or 3 or 5, which I know obviously, Chris, you're thinking about. So that's not to say that you're not thinking about that. That's not what I mean at all.
Okay, so well, actually, I guess we could look at this 2 ways. Going forward, does the board want to be involved in that? I see that. I think that's a great idea, but I also see how it could slow things down. So I think that's something to consider. I'm sure that when a position is open, they want to post for it as soon as possible. And if we don't have a board meeting for 2 weeks or sometimes longer, you know, that would be a concern. But I do understand your reasoning and agree with it. So I don't know how that looks. But then also more immediately, right now, we have interviews happening coming up. Do you, as a board, want to act on that?
I would say I agree with Roz. And I know that anticipated openings, I'm glad that we did do that and got the anticipated opening out there. I looked through Ed Jobs and I did see it early in the month or late. I don't remember the exact date, but as far as wanting to have a role, I would say it would be interesting to be on hiring committees. I know we've done it in the past, and also on exit interviews. So, and I would say, given all the flux that we have with Zoom meetings and everything coming up, it might be best to do it on a case-by-case basis. Just because I think some committees can ramp up at different times, and it would just make it a little easier for people to experience it when there's a little lull in their committee work.
Sounds right. So is there anyone who would like to be involved in the hiring committee for the positions that we have available?
I'm happy to help.
Okay, it's fine with me. Anyone else? Or do we just want to ask Roz to do that? I don't know if we need a motion or.
Is there anyone else who wants to do it? I don't want, just because my hand went up first.
I think that's great. And then next time someone else can do it and it works out great.
Fine with me.
I did have a quick question about it. And I asked this question only because I'm wondering about the job market in general. And that is, how many applicants do we have for the position?
I believe we had 6 or 7.
Is that pretty good, do you think?
Well, this is an area of need. To put it in perspective, when Audra came here, we had none. We advertised for months, and I actually had to go out and seek. I found Audra on social media by using Twitter, by getting out there and putting it out there amongst
Recruiting,
recruiting, yeah. So this is one of those high need positions, and so it's hard to find. So I think it depends. If it was a social studies teacher, I mean, I taught social studies for a while, but we were a dime a dozen. Math, math and science and library media, they're a little harder to find.
And there's certifications, I guess, with this role as well.
Library media specialist.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Yep.
Okay.
And I would not say that social studies teachers are a dime a dozen.
Oh, we were.
Thank you, Dr. Shapta.
We were.
Not a dime a dozen.
There's 3 of them in this meeting. We were a dime a dozen.
By the way, I'm here. I'm not at the beach. My camera's just not working.
Yeah, sure.
We did try to fix it twice.
It doesn't work at the beach, that's why. Okay, so we currently have a library position open, 2 paraprofessional positions open. You've already interviewed for one of the paraprofessional positions. The library position will be interviewed on Tuesday. And are there any other openings that we know of that?
Yes.
Okay.
You have another resignation that I have for you that came in on the 20th.
Okay.
Another para position.
So there'll be a total of 3 paras?
Yeah. I think so. Chris, is that right? Chris looks lost. Chris?
Where?
He's
Yeah,
sleeping.
I feel him.
Deanne Fowler.
Oh, right. We're not replacing that position. I'm sorry.
Okay. All right.
Okay, so there'll be 2. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so we currently have Roz as attending the interview for the librarian. Do we also want someone attending interviews for the para?
They're all kind of coming similar times, right?
When it comes to the paras, it all depends. I mean, at times we're getting them catch as catch can. We've done some great hires over the summer when we can't find somebody. And then I know last year we had an opening for months. So it's a balancing act when it comes to paraprofessionals oftentimes.
Those are posted now, though?
Yes.
And what's the closing date?
I think most of them, the library media closed on the 15th.
Okay,
I'm not sure about the para.
okay.
So I don't know what the other board members think, but I think paras, I think library media specialists, I think that everybody contributes to how our goals get realized. And so I would be happy to do that also, but, or someone else could be happy to do it. Or the rest of the board might say, we don't want to do that.
I think it's good to do it, and I think Raj should head right out for the library one right away. And if there's time between, if everything's done between now and the next meeting, just do all of them, or unless there's someone else that can, when the other positions close and the interviews are set up, then they could participate. So
My schedule has really opened up lately. And so I'm happy to do it.
okay.
Kathy, are you trying to say something?
Is Kathy there?
She's muted. You're muted.
Oh, there we go. Okay, what's up, Kathy?
Well, I was going to say I'd be willing to, switch off with Roz on interviews. And I wanted to also ask Chris if there are teachers on the interview committee?
Yes, there are teachers on the interview committee.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
The para ads close on the 6th of June.
Okay. All right, so that sounds good. So, Mr. Sousa, as you schedule interviews, if you can just reach out to Roz and Kathy, and then they can determine between the two of them who can attend when.
Well, we have our library media specialist already scheduled for Thursday.
Okay, so if you can send that info to
I mean
Roz
for Tuesday.
Well, I was going to say not Tuesday. Is
Yeah.
it Tuesday?
Tuesday.
Yep.
So you can send that information to Roz, that'd be great.
Yep.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else from Mr. Sousa or for Mr. Sousa for his report? I know, oh, sorry, go ahead. Go
I
ahead.
was just going to ask, Mr. Sousa, has there been any in the since we last met or since we last had a full meeting, do we have the same number of students still regularly attending, checking in? Have we lost anyone? Sorry, go on.
We haven't had any more, any additional flags being sent up that we can't find students. We have a couple of other issues that we're trying to schedule meetings for parents and things that, obviously these schedules become a little bit difficult at times to do. But no, as far as any other students that we're worried about, we've been able to make contact and verify and take care of all the students that we kind of in that same numbers and amounts that we had previously. So that's been pretty positive.
Good.
I certainly think that the amount of work and what things are, some of the trends that we're seeing is that as the weather gets warmer, it's a little bit more difficult to keep the kids focused.
Yeah.
But and there, I think people are a little bit tired. I think the feedback we got in talking to parents is folks are ready for a little bit of a break.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Question on graduation. Our next meeting is June 3rd. And the tentative date in our principal's report is June 3rd for graduation.
Mm-hmm.
So
What is the graduation again?
So we're going to do graduation. We're going to actually be handing out the diplomas. We're handing out the diplomas. Did I send you guys I think I gave everybody a copy of that letter. I think it went to the school board. I didn't went to the parents.
I think I got it.
yeah, I saw it. I saw that.
Yeah, so we're going to be doing that at 3 o'clock. And from 3 to 5, we'll be handing out the diplomas. And then at 5:30, and I was not sure how I could do it. I'm still trying to figure out some way to do it live and broadcast a video, but it may just be that I email out. We're going to be taping the graduation ceremony, the traditional speeches. We have 4 kids giving speeches. They're going to be videotaping them and sending them to me. Our staff is coming in on Tuesday, and we're going to be taping each one of them individually so they can do the awards, etc. I'm going to compile that, put that together, and that will be sent out at 5:30 on that June 3rd. So that's our graduation time.
Okay.
So my only question was usually, I know these are odd times, usually the board has some, we're there for the graduation. So I don't know what our thoughts are on that at this point. No.
Sue, are you asking if you think that we should be there?
Well, I'm just wondering, like, do we want to, what we like to do? Sometimes in the past, we sent out letters to graduates. Maybe the communication committee can talk about that. But I think the cars are going to roll up and there'll be people there. I'm trying to visualize it.
Yeah, if you live at the front of the school,
Yep.
we'll have staff there spread out. They'll come up to and then Jeff will probably read their names over a loudspeaker if we can get one, and we'll give them the diplomas. So you could be part of that group. Also, on the next day, on the 4th, is when we're having our parade. So we're having all the staff line up, and this is we're highlighting the 8th grade, but we're inviting everybody to go. This is kind of the end of the year wave that we would do for all the kids. but we're going to have the staff line up. We're using chalk to mark 6-foot intervals for people. So you could participate in that too, and then see all the kids drive by, and we'll have to set up a time, but it's like 10:30 to 12:30 or so on the 4th.
So I will be in both of those parades.
Yeah.
And other children. So I will not be attending as a school board member, but if any of the rest of you would like to attend those, then maybe just reach out to Mr. Sousa, let him know so he can have your chalk spot. So
Your
X marks the
Your
spot.
mask ready?
yeah. Does that sound good? So we don't kind of
Yes.
spend too much time on this? Okay.
We actually, for the parade, if you're interested in the 4th, for the parade, we have a great committee. Parents and staff are working together on that, because the parade is going to be, we have a school portion, then we have a parent portion where they're going to go around and again, highlight more of the 8th graders. But you can reach out to Karen Noel. She's been doing a phenomenal job. I'm so proud of her spearheading that. And you may be able to see some of the information that's floating out on Facebook now. And I think
Yes,
Christine,
it
you
was
did
on-
some-
She sent an email with the
Yes.
lineup.
Yeah. So reach out to her and she can help you with maybe some of the guidance around it.
So-
I found that with this committee taking charge, it was better for me to say, okay, where would you like me to stand?
Good call.
So Mr. Sousa, the 4th of June is the parade and graduation is the 3rd of June at 3 p.m.
Correct.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And we kind of thought of the parade as kind of like the 7th grade, the reception afterwards in a sense, if we did the 3rd. So that's why
That's
we
nice.
chose those days.
I have to say, I think you did a really good job sort of accommodating the many requests that were made for what is important to people, for honoring all of the 8th grade students. I know there were a lot of voices and a lot of asks, and I feel like you kind of managed to, pull through for just about everything.
Well, thank you. It was a lot of debate and discussion back and forth. And again, having a team, we work really well together with the middle school team. Our new staff have been awesome. Jenna Smith with technology jumping in, saying, what can I do? What can I do? Miss Caden as well. So we have a parent and a staff member coming in this week or the end of this week, and they're going to decorate the arch as well. So our goal is to have that out there on Friday, June 5th, Friday, and create a what do you call it? The sign up genius. Jeff's good at that. The sign up genius, where people can come in and schedule where they can come take photos at the arch too, in their cap and gown if they want. And if you haven't seen it yet, the Legacy Lane with the rocks. I'm hoping June 5th is a nice sunny day, because we put the arch there decorated with those rocks. I think it would look really pretty on the walkway.
It looks great.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. And my final question is about the plan for the school getting everything back in terms of textbooks, technology, etc.
You want those things back? Yes, we have we've decided, again, with the rush of the end of the year and the truncated schedule, that we're going to take out returning everything after the June 5th date. So the week of the 8th is when we're going to begin collecting materials, and we're going to have our same or similar crew that's going to help collect things, and we're going to inventory them and store them in the gymnasium for a week. They recommend 3 days. We're going to go longer, we'll twice that for safety reasons. And then we'll begin divvying them up, separating them out, whether it be for grades or the technology pieces. In the past, we've had Janice Kane and paid her a stipend to come in over the summer along with Kevin. And they've gone through all the Chromebooks. We'll do that again. We anticipate we'll have a lot more issues with the returned Chromebooks. And that's fine. They get a lot more wear and tear on them than we expected this year. And we'll know better what we need to purchase and things once that's done, probably by midsummer.
Okay.
I would also just say that on June 1st, we're going to ask 8th graders to come in and drop off their materials, and then also pick up some graduation materials.
Right.
So we'll do that obviously before the rest of the school, but I'll send out an email next week with a little more details for parents.
I'm wondering just a little bit about the summer material collateral that will be going out. And also, I think we had decided collectively that there would be a book going to Dover High School students for summer reading. And I was just wondering about that. I know there's a lot going on and maybe it's not immediate, but just to keep it on the radar.
So our summer slide, we're looking at when parents drop things off, that we will hand out the summer slides. There'll be a handoff. So we'll have all those materials. We've actually even begun to earmark the packets for our preschoolers as well. So we'll figure out, we may have to mail some of those and we're fine with that. Or make them available for people to come at the school and pick them up at any time during the summer. But we're hoping for that kind of trade-off piece. As far as the Dover books, I really don't know. That's something I would have to ask Jude to know what the plan is for distribution on those. I know, again, having this occur, I don't know what the logistics would be. It may be that if the books are, something we could mail, it may be better off mailing them out.
Okay.
Or maybe even just providing some kind of credit to a certain website or bookstore with a list of suggested titles or something like that might be.
I know that I'm sorry, the noise. Sorry. I know that you can remotely add money to people's Amazon's accounts just with an email. I think you can send them a link to a gift card because our PTA did that for our staff. So yeah, that may be the way to go.
Yeah, I think you might have some auditor issues if you do that, but so check it with Glenn. Gift cards are not, you know what I mean? You get in
Not
trouble for
tracked.
those. So just whatever you do, please check it with Mr. Waring to make sure we're compliant.
You got it.
Sounds good. Okay, any other questions for Mr. Sousa? Okay, so thank you, Mr. Sousa. We'll move on to the
You're very welcome.
report. Scott.
Personnel report is on page 10.
Yep.
And then I have a supplemental and I'm about to get an interruption, so
Oh,
sorry. Thank you. I apologize. I texted in the family text if somebody could bring me a glass of ice water. I'm on my second one now. Whoops. I'll offer the resignation of Audra Lewis, effective June 30th, 2020.
give a motion.
I'm sorry.
I'll make a motion to accept with regret.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to accept the resignation of Audra Lewis with regret. We can roll call votes. Dr. Shavda,
Yes.
Kathy Brosnan,
Yes.
Levinson,
Yes.
Kelly Gordon. She said yes, and a thumbs up, and I will also say yes. So we have 5 in favor. And that motion passes. And then you said you had another one, Mr. Rooney?
Yeah, one came out on the 19th, so it didn't make your packet. So Deanne Fowler is resigning as a paraprofessional effective June 30th, 2020.
I'll
make a motion. Oh,
Accept with
sorry.
regret Deanne Fowler's resignation.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion from Ms. Levinson and a second from Ms. Brosnan. Roll call again. Dr. Shavda,
Yes.
Brosnan,
Yes.
Ms. Levinson,
Yes.
Ms. Gordon,
Yes.
and me, yes, that's 5.
That's it for the personnel report. Monthly expenditure report, I had one put in your packet. I know you had a financial report last meeting, but I had one put in your packet because you need to start considering making some decisions. And then I know Mr. Waring emailed out some supplemental information based on some questions. I don't know if you want to take that up now or take it under COVID-19. If I have answers to your questions, if you have more questions, I can either try to answer those or bring those back to Mr. Waring.
I have just a couple.
Yeah, let's see how I can do.
And the email that I sent, I realized I sent it to everyone, so we can just put that in the minutes and make sure that that's fine. So we're showing the 410,648.18 as our current unassigned fund balance. And I just My thoughts on this, or my concern on this, is that we make some purchases with our year-end unassigned fund balance with an eye towards some things that we may need, because we do not know what the July 1st budget is going to have to take on around transportation and the like. And so I think we should really seriously consider moving our full 1.5% into our fund. And if we did all that, we've got 20,000 going to textbooks, 25 going to building, 25 going to grounds. And you'd end up with about 170,648 left. We should probably think about how best to utilize some of that.
Okay, I'm
Can we
sorry,
just-
Sue, can I slow you down for a second?
Yep.
You took out the 1.5% and you took out the close to 200,000 for our warrants.
No,
The 95 is a grant, so I didn't take that out.
I came up with, let's do group math for a second. Is that
Yep.
okay?
Yep,
So I'm just gonna call it 410,000, right?
Yep.
And then I think your eligible warrant articles, are those 102,500?
yes, I forgot about the grant for the 95, so,
And the teacher's contract doesn't count.
yep, so yep,
So 102,000, so 410 minus 102,000,
okay,
right?
yep,
Is 308,000,
yep,
is
Yeah.
that correct?
yep.
And then the calculation for your 1.5 retention fund is about 170,000, is that right?
That's what you had.
Yeah, that's what the spreadsheet from the DRA said.
So 128,
138, I'm seeing.
38,
Well, hold on. I'm doing it by hand right
It
now.
would be about 138, because I had only calculated
128.
textbooks,
Yes,
25 for building, 25 for grounds.
yeah,
Wait a minute. Yeah, 25 for grounds. And then the other items were for our, those are costs that would just be in the budget, rolled into the budget.
so 138,
138 is what I show for a balance. Well,
Okay.
let's go, I'm gonna go back to the warrants for a second. You
Yeah, 'cause I
ready?
don't know how we get to 102 there.
20 for books, 27.5 for building, 25 for grounds, and 30 for special ed.
Yep. What does that add up to?
20 for books. I've got in my packet here 25 for the building repair, but we can call it 27.5, that's fine. And then Article 7 was 25 for grounds improvement.
Yep, and then 30 for special ed. That's 102.5.
Okay, yep. Okay, so there's the difference, the third, got it.
I mean, that's what I have right on that's what I just took off the warrants.
Yep. Yep, so, okay, so then we're left with the 138.
Right, to work with.
Yep.
And if there's any shortage in food service, we'll have to cover that, but it looks like we've got like $6,000 or $4,000 left there in this package
Right now, your foods, you will have losses in your food service.
So that'll have to come out.
So when are we going to be making decisions about what we want to do with that and looking at
Doing that
potential?
now. I mean, we should be doing that now.
Yeah, that's why I did the email, because you have to get those POs cut, and you have to have delivery usually before a year end in order to be compliant.
Well, I think you have to have the PO to the vendor.
Yeah.
Before the.
We don't want to cut it. We don't want to cut it close. And I think one year we almost.
Oh, I know, it was my first year, I was running around.
Yeah. But the point is that we want to do it. We should do it now.
But I don't know. Would it be better to let Mr. Sousa think about what the needs may be in the fall? And then just make this decision at the next meeting, and then we'll get it turned around that night or the next morning?
I think so.
I
Yep,
think-
that sounds like a plan.
For June 3rd, we'll have some thoughts about,
Yeah,
We'll
You
also have
have-
more, we'll also have more of an idea about what some other, maybe some ideas about what we might need in the fall. We're not going to know what we need in the fall until, unfortunately, the fall. But I think as a number of national organizations start making some predictions and talking about how we go forward and how we go forward in a safe way, we are going to have to start talking to our community and trying to figure out how to do this. And so I don't know that that's all going to happen in the next 2 weeks, but we'll obviously have more information then than we do right now.
right. The water won't be clear in 2 weeks, but hopefully some of the silt would have settled so you can see something. I
We
think
have
it's
been
great.
talking, oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Go ahead, Chris.
We have been talking as an admin team and about some of the things that we're thinking of if we were able to use some funds for purchase, particularly from this COVID-19. We are in a social studies cycle for curriculum. And so there are some social studies materials we'd like to purchase, around $5,000 worth of social studies materials. And then, of course, the technology. That's a bit of a question mark as far as we're not sure what's coming back and what state it's going to be in. But when we thought about the fact that that Google is still planning on, what do we call it? They're changing their software. They're not going to be updating it anymore. It's becoming more obsolete.
End of life.
they've got their 5-year
Their end of life. Yeah.
lessons, we're calling it.
Right. So, it may be good for us to at least maybe look at getting an additional cart of Chromebooks, due not only to the losses, but also we know
Yeah,
we're
I
going to
mean-
be needing them.
I predict, I can see this far ahead, that we probably may have an increased need for technology in the fall. I see a couple issues that I'll just spell out right now. No answers, but this is what I'm predicting. We may have issues with transportation because of social distancing, if social distancing is still in place. We know we can get 13 kids on a bus socially distanced. I'm certainly going to start working with Dale on, we paid our contracts, can you reciprocate in the fall if we need some extra help? But I do see the potential for transportation increases. And the puzzle of trying to figure out if we can't, and I'm not saying this is going to happen. So if anybody from the community is listening, none of this is written in stone. And these are just thoughts and looking ahead. But if we have to do some sort of staggered schedule to maintain safety and distance, you're likely to see some staffing increases or reductions in other areas to make up for those increases. So we have I'm predicting we have a difficult bunch of decisions to make, and I'll cover some of that in my COVID-19 update.
Okay.
But I think it's smart for the board to start trying to get a handle on what our expenses are. We know that even though we still don't have our CARES Act fund, that it doesn't matter how much we spend, the CARES Act fund is only going to give us so much. I'm hopefully anticipating some sort of support from the HEROES Act. Although the last time I checked that it passed the House, but it hadn't passed the Senate. But I was in another meeting last night, so I didn't see the news. So I think we need to, just cautiously proceed, do what we can for some pre-purchases, and then just tighten our belts and wait. Because what I don't want to see is us in a situation where we have to go for a deficit appropriation where we have everything else going on.
Yeah, that would be really bad. It would be hard for
Yeah.
taxpayers and
Yeah, it would be hard for your taxpayers. We've started conversations. Your town managers reached out about cash flow. They don't know what that's going to look like. So we're trying to work together on coming up with some cash flow plan to make sure that everybody's needs are met. So there's just a lot to be done and a lot to be thought about and a lot to consider as we head through June, July, and August and get ready for the what hopefully is the opening of school.
The New Hampshire Municipal Association sent out an email today, which.
All right, Sue, who did you say? I didn't hear you.
The New Hampshire Municipal Association sent out an email today, which was very interesting around some of the things that may happen in the municipalities and some of the grants that are available to them. And I can forward it to the school board email if you're interested in it. There was a lot of data.
Yes, please.
But the thing that I
Please.
guess is concerning to me anyway is that we may well have some sort of hybrid situation. We can't predict the future. And I think that our teachers are doing a very good job and our students are doing a very good job as everyone's working hard and doing well. But we're going to have to find a way to probably develop more synchronous and kind of, or not, I don't want to say just more synchronous as we go, because we've done the administration and the school and everybody has done a phenomenal job turning on a dime. But if this is the new normal for a while, parents are going to need some supports too, workbooks that have answers and things like that. It's pretty difficult as a parent, I'm sure, to be trying to work with your students, and you may need some resources.
Mhm.
So,
And again, many organizations will be open in the fall that are not open right now. So that means a whole different set of challenges for us when it comes to our kindergarten through 4th, 5th graders. So as we talk about staggered schedules or whatever it is we come up with, we will have to take those kinds of things into account. I think the only certainty that we have is that we are uncertain about how much things are going to cost, but things are not going to be the way we thought they were going to be when we put forward our budget. That budget it's a different world.
right.
It is a totally different world.
Thankfully, we have a robust summer slide program, which will help, I'm sure. But in looking at the New Hampshire Department of Health and Human Services reports, there are currently 191 children infected from 0 through 19. And I'm noticing when I read the narratives every day that it's a newer situation where you see a certain amount of younger, under 18, every day. So that is concerning.
And what we have not talked, and I guess we'll talk about this in COVID-19, but what to do about asymptomatic people. Because I see a lot of we keep talking about taking temperatures. When I say we, I don't mean us, the school board. I mean everybody making recommendations. They keep talking about temperatures. Asymptomatic people don't have fevers.
And they're estimating that 35% of the population is asymptomatic.
Asymptomatic, that's right.
Yep.
So those things have to be taken into account.
Yeah, I think that we should get back on track in terms of the agenda, because all the things we need to talk about, but I just want to make sure that we're not just kind of getting off the rails. We're now we're talking about the expenditure report. I wrote down that on June 3rd, we'll have a larger discussion on fund balance and spending needs.
Can you repeat that? I'm sorry, Christine.
I wrote down that for our June 3rd meeting on the agenda, we'll have a larger discussion around the fund balance and our spending needs.
Yep. All right.
So other questions? Sue, I know you had some other finance questions. Did you get everything that you asked for?
I think we got just about everything, and I'm appreciative of seeing it. It's up to the board. In the past, we saw the actual reports that came from the high schools on enrollment, and it is helpful to see the ins and outs, to see how you stand comparatively with other districts in enrollment in our tuition high schools. And I did notice going through the manifest, which as you can tell, I love seeing the manifest at my own pace rather than at the board table. I did notice on the Dover bill that was the 155,000 that there were 6 or 7, let me say this, between 5 and 7 withdrawals. And so that's something that is interesting to note. And we would typically see that on the ins and the outs. So I don't know if they moved or transferred to another institution or, another school, but those are things that interest me in terms of the well-being of our students.
Did they show up in the adjusted April? I know that Mary had over redacted.
Yeah.
So then I sat with her and had her, how do I say unredacted? I don't know if it shows up in those April and May reports, your withdrawals, but I did help her.
We can look at it again. There were more in the manifest and they ranged from January, I think, forward. But I guess my question is to the board, just because we've always done that, and that was the report that we did see, doesn't mean we need to. I like it, but does the board want it? The individual, the supporting information.
I think it's always helpful to.
Yeah, no, I think it's good for you to get the supporting information. And I went over that with Mrs. Belcher.
Okay.
So I think that's a good idea.
Okay.
Okay, anything else from the expenditure report? Okay, so we can move on to the 2021 calendar, which is in our packet on page 20. I've seen this a few times. I think if we're going to make a motion to approve this, this is just my opinion, but I'm thinking maybe we should just say, with the understanding that there are a lot of unknowns about next year. And, this is our approval for now, and things, we just don't know.
And will change.
Yeah, they may. So, but we've
So
seen
uncomfortable.
before, this is the calendar that starts students' first day on August 26th. We've already made the motions to accept the contract changes so that we can start then, as well as extend the day by 15 minutes. So that puts our last day as an early release on June 11th. And that would include up to, I believe 7 snow days, Mr.
Yeah.
Sitka. So anybody have any questions or comments or motions for the school calendar?
I'll make a motion that we accept the school calendar as printed on page 20 with the addendum, if you will, saying that things can and will change, and it might have to be modified due to change of situation due to COVID-19.
I will second that if we make October all uppercase.
The month
The name October.
as edited. That's funny. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? I'm realizing now I forgot the discussion part on some early motions, so just stop me if you need to. All right, so we will roll call. Dr. Shabda,
Yes.
Kathy, Ms. Brosnan,
Yes.
Ms. Levinson,
Yes.
Ms. Gordon,
Yes.
and me, yes. So we have 5 in favor for the calendar. Wonderful. Next thing on our agenda is the monthly enrollment report, which is on starts on page 21. 22. It's largely unchanged, right? Anything of note or any questions on the enrollment report?
No, I think getting the backup information on high school was helpful. This is only changed by 2.
Yes.
It's down by 2.
Do we have all of the high school information that you wanted, Sue, or are you still you're looking for more, right?
No, I think it's fine. Initially, it had redacted information. We never received names before, but we would get things like just general transfers and that kind of thing. So I think in the last format that it came in, it was just like the reports that they send to us.
Okay, okay. I just wanted to make sure.
We used to get, and I don't know if Dover doesn't do it anymore, but attendance rates used to be on there. And that is a metric that is important in high schools. I think we still have it on the Co-Brown, but not on the Dover. But again, I'm not looking to push at them right now on their reporting, but we used to see that number.
Did you say attendance rates?
Yeah, I mean, like 90.
No, you just literally, I heard you just sort of hiccuped on that one word, so that's fine.
Maybe we could ask, coming up, we're going to talk about a Dover meeting, a meeting with the Dover board. So maybe we could talk about that then. Okay. All right. Any other comments or questions about the enrollment report? All right, let's move along to some COVID-19 updates.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I'm gonna run through the list and then
Yep.
sort of give you an update after that. Is that okay?
Perfect.
And if anybody has any updates here, just jump in. So end of year events, I believe Mr. Sousa went over those with the board.
Yep.
Yes. Financial assessment, I believe Mr. Waring included some information on expenses in an email.
Yes.
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 Curriculum and learning loss assessment. So that sort of ties into the superintendent's task force. So I'm going to just park that for a minute and let you know that I have not seen the interim URL assessment from the DOE. And that is not provided to us, the assessment that the parent can administer.
They said they do it in May.
Mm-hmm. They said they do ESY guidance in May too.
Then.
You know, they're busy. I get it. I'm trying to be patient. Curriculum learning loss assessment. I'll cover a little bit in the task force report. That'll be part of the assessment plan. We've already recommended that we do ESY and summer learning remotely. Plans for fall is going to come. I think I sent you an email with a recap of the commissioner's call today pretty much earlier. It is after 3:30, but you have some information in there. Student services update. I think Mr. Byrne covered that. If you want more information, just let us know now. Funding from the CARES Act. In the commissioner's call today, he said we're working on it. They're still struggling with whether they use the equitable services model for Title I or Title II. Apparently, 13 states have forged ahead in absence of the federal government's guidance. 8 of those have decided to use the Title II equitable services distribution formula, and 5 have chosen to use the Title I equitable services.
Scott, sorry, could you repeat those numbers again, please?
Yeah.
So 13 states have forged ahead. And 8 of them have decided to use the Title II equitable services model, and 5 of them, including I think the state of Maine, has decided to use the Title I model.
What about us?
It doesn't really matter for you because you don't have a private school within your boundaries.
Okay. I'm just gonna pause for just 1 second. Kathy, I think that might be your dog barking. Would you mind muting just because it's a little distracting and I can't hear?
Okay. Well, it's the fire department got to quiet it down.
Got them all excited. Thank you, Kathy.
Yes.
All right, go ahead, Mr. Rooney.
But the way that it does affect you is like, we can't just decide to do that. We have to wait for that to filter through the state system. You know, as far as the CARES Act money, when it comes, it's pretty flexible. They're not going to deny a lot of activities that we put in. We just need to figure out, all of us, how we want to use that money and hope that we get some more, because while you're not over budget, you paid things, but those things you paid aren't going to equal the amount of CARES Act fund that you get. Hopefully with the HEROES Act, it'll get a little closer.
And when would the funds from the CARES Act come?
I was told today soon.
So this fiscal year, or?
Well, it's good. The CARES Act fund works. I don't want to say it works like a grant, because then there's all these rules and it doesn't. It'll be set up in the grant system, and it will go, those funds will be eligible until September of 2021.
Okay.
So and their use is retroactive until March 13th of this year. So you have a lot of flexibility there. with how you do that.
But not a lot of money. It's only going to be 30 or 30, somewhere between 30 and $35,000.
Yep. In the commissioner's call this afternoon, once it's does anybody ever go and watch those recorded ones?
With the commissioner, yeah.
Yeah. Do you see in the recorded ones, are you able to see the chat feature?
I never look at chat, so I'm not.
Okay, so the question was asked sort of forcibly, that we were told to pay our transportation contracts as part of the initial package. And those transportation costs are not going to be covered by the amount of money that you're giving us. Right?
Right.
And so the commissioner did say that he would bring that to the governor's attention. I don't know what that means.
Millions of dollars are coming into the state, and I understand that obviously we have a lot of needs that need to be addressed. But when you're talking about the amount of funding coming into the state to have $30,000 to deal with transportation, additional sanitation, the health needs of your students, supporting parents, buying materials, and we can go on, it doesn't seem to even begin to cover that.
Nope.
And the remediation, or whatever word you'd like to use, that may be needed as a result of our fast turn to this remote methodology. So $30,000 does not go far. I'm not trying to be a concerned.
I don't disagree. And I hope that in the next round that the schools get a little more support than that. You know, $37 million sounds like a lot of money when it goes to one state. But once they divide that up amongst all the districts, and they use the poverty formula to do it, you're going to have districts that get more than others.
Okay.
Well, that was fun. All right.
Also on the COVID-19, well, actually, go ahead. You finish first and I'll ask. Carry on. Sorry.
And then in summer meals, what I'm hearing is that we're not eligible as a feeding site because our free and reduced lunch population isn't at 50% or greater. So we're still trying to gather information with that. I'll be honest with you folks, a lot of the information is sent out to the directors and not the superintendents, and we've tried to address that with the Department of Ed because it's sort of important that we know what's going on. And they have promised to send us that stuff, and we haven't all received it yet. So I received sort of side information that if we didn't have a free and reduced lunch rate, so summer feeding sites use like a summer camp or something to provide the meals because they're making meals anyway, kind of, you know, something like that. And what's going on in the state is a lot of summer camps aren't opening, like Yavna in Northwood is not going to open. So then you don't have a summer feeding site. So my original thought was, because our food service director doesn't work during the summer in Nottingham or other places, and we have a company in Northwood, we could make Northwood a summer feeding site, and then we could serve all those families in Nottingham and Stratford that still have food needs. And it just doesn't seem at that point that this is going to work out. And Nate and Chris are laughing at me, and I'm not sure why. So we're sort of a stay tuned on summer meals as we try to, I have Glenn working on that. And then, did you have a question before I go into the task force?
No, carry on. Thank you.
All right. So I need a board member to be on the superintendent's advisory committee. And it's the last member that I'm looking for, and from Nottingham.
I would love to do that, but I'm not sure if anyone else would also love to do that and would want to fight me for it, or just kidding. Just kidding.
Yeah, this one's not going to be fun.
Yeah, so
I have no issue with that, but I do think that we should be weighing in as a board about some of the things that we are, some of the thoughts that we have to our, whomever
yeah.
our member is.
Yeah.
I missed the last sentence, Sue.
I said, I believe the board should be weighing in and working tightly with whomever we select or whomever want to do.
And that's really the purpose. And I'll go into that in a few minutes. So is it Christine?
Yes.
I'm totally fine with Christine doing it. I think she'd be a great representative.
I do too.
Thank you.
All right, so let me talk to you a little bit about where we're at. I believe Christine is our 31st member.
Whoa.
Well, think about it, right? I'm trying to build a collaborative structure here. So we've created, the admin team have created 6 domains, 6 subcommittees basically that will fill this. The large group isn't going to meet too often together. That's just a lot of people, you won't get much done. So without having it in front of me right now, there's governance, health and wellness, curriculum instruction and assessment, operations, facilities, and technology. People will be provided reading, like the CDC guidelines, the page 45 through 48, not the whole document, because why would you? I gave a draft plan of Dover's reopening, a draft plan of Goffstown's reopening, and then a link to a state plan. Now, some states run things rather differently than New Hampshire, where the state superintendent is responsible for doing all that stuff. So I did include a link to a state plan. My expectation for the subcommittees, and I'll go over the membership in a minute, is that they take their section of the plan, which should go out Tuesday, add anything that is missed because it's such a comprehensive movement, right? And then I'm going to create a data catcher that lists the action, and then if we're fully open, if we're hybrid, if we're remote, and see if we can come up with addressing those 6 areas, and then come back with a set of information to present to the board separately. Because some things like classrooms are different sizes. We may need a social distance, hallway flow is different. There's a lot of local stuff that needs to be added in. I've got everybody, I took out the sorting hat today and I sorted all the members into committees where I thought their strengths would be greatest. For instance, health and wellness probably makes sense. We're gonna have the guidance and nurses work together with an administrator on that team. And then every team will have an administrator, either a central office administrator or a building administrator on the team as a facilitator, their subcommittees. And then we'll run through the process and do our subcommittee work and then come back and report out. My hope is that we're able to report out and have a document ready for when the state task force comes out with their recommendations.
Mhm.
Then we can crosswalk those off of our documents, make any adjustments, and then come back in July and hopefully have some idea of what we're going to do. Does that make sense?
It makes great sense. I would just like to know if we're going to be getting any feedback from parents around their experiences.
Well, in the email, so yes, actually on the governance committee, and I've actually, just so Christine knows, I sorted her into that committee, which is going to have to do with policy and working with different organizations. But one of the things we're going to have to do, here's what we know right now. We know some districts around the Seacoast have surveyed parents with very simple questions. So the very simple question that was used in one of those surveys was, if we're able to guarantee social distancing and other preventative measures, will you send your student back to school? And then the other question that went out was to the staff, a similar question. And sort of interestingly enough, that data set came back at about 30% are not comfortable for different reasons. So I want to sort of model some of that surveying and maybe some of the more expanded surveying, but at the same time, I see an opportunity because in the commissioner's call today, there's going to be a survey that's going to go out. So the START task force is gathering data. So there's going to be a survey that goes out, I think, Sunday and Tuesday. through the certification system for the certified paraprofessionals and teachers and administrators. Then I'm going to send another link for the people who aren't. And then we're going to encourage those staff to take those surveys. And then on Tuesday morning, there's going to be a link that's sent to me that I'm going to transfer to the principals for the parents. And I'm hoping that maybe the state can disaggregate that data for us. Should be able to. They're using SurveyMonkey, right? And then we can look at our data and what our families and what our staff are feeling about the fall. And if we're not able to do that, then we're going to do our own survey. We've got to. The amount of rumors, I know this is a shocker, that are going around right now that I'm reacting to are, I mean, they're certainly not paralyzing, but there's a fair amount of them. Like I heard one yesterday that in another town, we weren't going to open until January. Students were going to go to school for 30 days and then have 50 days off, which I responded, this is a rumor. I've just formed the task force. We haven't even met. Nobody's spoken about this. Please, please don't let this cause you anxiety. So we've got to survey people. And then we've also, as part of my interaction with the board on this committee, is I've got to sort of update, Christina and I are going to have to update your board publicly as to what's going on in the committee, so people get that information.
Right. I think you just touched on an important part in that I know that there are a lot of people in the community who have a lot of questions and also maybe thoughts and ideas and comments. And I think it will be important while this committee is maybe not working through like this school board meeting, you know, I don't want to say behind the scenes, but, you know, there'll be things happening outside of board meetings, but I think it's important that we are clear about and transparent about the conversations that are being had. And even though we know that decisions won't be made until probably July, you know, just keeping people aware of the conversations as we go, I think will be helpful.
Yep, I think so.
Good.
So as part of that committee, we can take a look at, after they meet, they need to do a report out paragraph that we have. Because the other challenge is with a committee of 31 people divided into subcommittees, we're not going to know exactly what's going on in the other committees because we'll be meeting with our committees. So all that cross communication is going to be very important. It's going to be very important to let the families know what we're talking about and what we're seeing. So it is going to be very, very hard work. But I think we got a good structure and we're well equipped and we have the enthusiasm to do it. So I'm excited. I'm not excited about the content of the committee, but I'm certainly excited about the people that are on it and working with them.
So can you just recap really quickly? I know it's building administrators, nurses, guidance counselors.
Okay, facilities directors, technology people, teachers, paras, administrators, nurses, guidance. Mr. Sousa, Mr. Byrne, did I hit it all?
You were muted.
Oh, I was
believe
muted?
so. I'm sorry. I was coughing a bunch. It's a dry, it's whatever. It's allergy cough. You're good.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. You're at home.
So,
All right,
yeah,
yeah.
I think that's all the groups.
And how were teachers and paras? Did you just ask for volunteers or are they?
No, I actually used the union leadership because
Yep.
we're gonna need them working with us and conveying that information to their membership.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. So you've got like the paraprofessional president in Stratford, Northwood, Nottingham, you know, that kind of structure.
Okay. All right. Does anyone have any COVID-19 update related questions for Mr. Rooning or anyone? All right. think so. Now I would like to ask the will of the board. It is almost 4 on a Friday afternoon of Memorial Day weekend. I am happy to proceed through policies, or would you like to push them one more time? What would you like to do?
I would like to know from Mr. Rooning, are there any, I would actually like for us to do the suicide prevention and response policy, but other than that, I'd like to know if there's anything that needs to be done today before June 1st.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Rooney, you can answer, but I also think it would be quick probably to do the ACE policy. We're there. And then at least we've.
But I agree with you. It is Friday, almost 4 o'clock.
And
Yeah,
we do still have some other things to discuss too, so.
right. I don't see anything super pressing here.
I feel like we would.
I mean, they've
I don't-
been out there. They've been out there for a while.
Right.
I
Okay,
don't think we would rush through anything, but I would like for us to spend enough time on suicide prevention so that we can really talk about it. And I don't think that we're going to be able to do that today.
okay.
Well, that policy is not required to be the. Go ahead, Nate.
I was probably going to say what you were going to say. So you're probably.
Let's see if you
realize
say
you're
the
gonna
same thing. You go first.
Okay, so that policy, while it's going to go into effect July 1, it gives you some time frame. It's not actually needed to be in place until March 31st
Of
I believe is
2021.
of 2020. I believe that's what you're going to say, Mr. Rooning, correct?
That's exactly what I was saying.
We're on the same page.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it's March of 2021. So you do have some time to get that in because you do have some time after it takes effect and the bill goes in. I know it's important and it is important policy, but I do agree it's not something that you're going to be able to fly through. Or it could take some time by itself, a long amount of time. And just wanted to let you know that originally when we brought it to you, there was a concern we had to have that in before the start of the school year, hopefully before July, but we do have some leeway in that at this point. It was clarified the time frame that it is. That's it.
So is it the will of the board that we just push these then?
That's what I said.
Okay, I would like to make note, I think it's listed here, policy KCD. It's listed as second reading, and I went back through my notes and I don't believe we ever approved a first
I
reading.
didn't even see a KCD.
Public,
Yeah, I brought KCD, but I don't think you did do anything with it. You're right.
so I think it's tabled every time.
Yeah.
So when that comes back, it should just come back as first reading.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay, thank you. All right. I hate to keep pushing them, but I really think we'll get to them next time, as long as we're not.
Well, something came up in March and it sort of distracted people.
I know, but I think like if this meeting had happened Wednesday night, I think we could have at least tackled a couple. I just think everyone probably wants to get on with their weekend too, so.
Folks, can I step away for a minute?
Yep.
Do you mind? All right.
Yep. Okay, so thing on our agenda is the timeline. Take a look at that. It's on page 47. Scheduled for June, where is June? Starting strategic planning, which I believe we've decided we're not gonna do right now. And same thing with the Earth Fest planning. I don't think they even know what that's gonna look like at this point. So maybe wait on that. The building application we're gonna discuss in further detail coming up under committee reports.
I have a quick question about the handbook. Mr. Souza, are you guys changing the handbook to reflect the fact that we might be in some kind of remote learning, or we might be doing in-class or bricks and mortar and remote learning? Has there been thought about that with the handbook?
I think that's something that's probably going to come up with this SAU committee as
Okay.
far as, and then rather than redo the entire handbook, We're really kind of more put that aside and do it an addendum to it.
Okay.
based
Thank
on
you so
whatever it
much.
might be. You're welcome.
All right. So any other comments or questions for the June or anything else on the timeline? I don't feel like there's anything specific here we need to add to our agenda because I think it's all kind of there already. All right. And how about open items? I would like to know, Mr. Rooning, if there's a plan for the minutes that are missing. And also like just, I guess, just what the procedure is now for getting minutes, because we finally we're all caught up and now we don't have minutes in this packet. And so
Yeah.
and we might have to do
So the process for minutes is Nate takes, or whoever, transmits the video or the audio recording to the secretary.
Mhm.
And the secretary actually has been really good about getting those turned around and back again.
Mhm.
And I'm not sure what happened this time,
Okay.
but we don't have minutes from the last meeting in the packet. So
Do you know if they've been turned in since the packet came out?
I believe they have. I believe when I emailed her to let her know that all the videos were in there, she had said she had completed them. So we'll double check that. But I do believe that they're there because I let her know when I upload them.
Okay, great. I think her minutes have been fantastic, and
yeah,
you're
and
right.
it looks like the only minutes we're missing are the 3-3 pre-forum, right?
Right. And then, yeah. And then the last,
All right.
which,
I'll look at that.
all right, perfect. Because if we can just get caught up and then stay on top of it, that would be great.
Yeah, and you were pretty much caught up. So.
Yeah, yeah.
One thing quickly on that might help is that in the past, and I still have this with the joint chair, we get a copy of the draft minutes when they're done. And that way it gives me an opportunity to look at them and plan the agenda well ahead of when the agenda needs to be prepped. So maybe if you were on those emails, when they're first prepared, they have to come out within, 5 days, whatever the law is. You'll have them sooner, and you'll also have it on your radar if they're not available right at that
Right.
point, to start pursuing it.
Right. And I don't, hold on.
We used to get the invoice and the minutes at the same time, and the board chair would just look at that, and then it's really helpful to have them anyway, like I said, for planning.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. If they come to me. So Mr. Rooney, could you get me on the list?
Yeah, I'm right. I'm just looking at, yeah. Yep. Keep going. Sorry.
Anybody else have any open items that they want to discuss or put on an upcoming agenda? Okay. And budget planning, I think we all know, is just going to be a big question mark right now. And we'll be discussing that, I think, in terms of reopening schools. The budget will go hand in hand with that.
How are we doing
I
with,
have a quick question. Kelly, have you talked to the budget committee? Kelly?
I
Not
gotta
yet.
get her.
Have-
Okay. I thought you were muted. Sorry, Miss Gordon.
I thought she was frozen.
I talked to a budget committee member today, and he indicated that they're probably going to be, they were just kind of waiting for things to settle down and how do you do Zoom and getting everything set up with the town, but I believe they're going to be starting to move toward a meeting.
Thank you. Mr. Rooning, I don't know if you remember that the budget committee has asked that we have quarterly financials sent to them. They want
Right.
to change the way everything's sent to
That's
them.
what we did. We started doing that.
Okay, I just wanted to remind you. I'm
Yeah.
not a part of it, so I just
Yeah,
want.
we did it to them. We did it to them. We started sending those to them last year quarterly. So it'll just be important for me to know when they're meeting.
It was just a conversation
Yeah.
around a different committee. I was talking to Michael
Yeah.
around the facilities committee and ensuring that an individual on the committee was copied on all of the emails. And I just happened to ask, hey, by the way, have you guys had a meeting yet? So that was very informal. And he was saying, yeah, kind of getting ready to move on that.
Okay, all right.
I was gonna talk to Kelly about it later, but it just pretty much happened, so.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so we can move on to our committee reports and updates. Sue, do you want to start with a facilities committee?
Sure, if you'd like.
And I can jump in if we want to.
Facilities Committee is meeting every Thursday at this point. You've all received a draft copy of the application that it will be due for July 1st. We'd like to get it in a little earlier than that. There were some pictures that came today that Christine forwarded to you. And we had a pretty robust conversation yesterday. One of the things I think that best, and I think would be very wise, would be for this board to convene a special meeting where we are able to vote and potentially even go into non-public if we want to, and focus our efforts on this building facility situation, look through the application, talk about alternatives, the whole thing, and really just become one with this at this point. Look at the narrative as it's written, make sure that we think it addresses all of the needs. I think the committee's done a very nice job. They've had a lot that they've been working on, and it would be nice to have the board kind of look at it now. But the biggest thing is going to be, what kind of alternatives do we see? And also, we need to have a candid conversation. I have no opinion on this. I don't think anyone does, but it does need to be done, I think, to have a candid conversation around the timing of this. Is this the best time? Do we want to continue to push forward with it? And if we do, that's fine, but we at least have that conversation. I think we do, but let's talk about that.
Right, so in the application, there are a couple of sections specifically that are like they're written in a narrative form. One of them is section D, which is alternatives considered. And so we need to talk about what our plans B, C, and D are. And then another section is section F, and that is deficiencies. So as Sue just said, we wanted to have a work session where the board has taken some time with the whole application really, but specifically those two sections, and taken some time to think about any additions, changes, edits to those two narratives, so that we can have a conversation around that. And then we can bring that back to the facilities committee. There are other sections of the application that different members of the facilities committee are walking away with and tightening up. And it was really up to the board to firm up those sections. So wondering if it's possible for us to have a work session between now and our Thursday meeting. Does anyone have thoughts on that? Do you want to have a work session? Are you willing to have a work session?
I'm just looking at my schedule.
It's kind of easier with Zoom because you can do it, you know.
In your jammies? No.
That too?
You can do it. Yeah. I mean, Zoom offers you some flexibility to meet at more convenient times.
Yeah.
I know that Sue and I have a meeting Tuesday night. I have a meeting Wednesday night, and I have facilities Thursday, and it's a holiday Monday.
Yeah. Thursday's at 3:30.
Right. So,
I could possibly do Wednesday. Tuesday is difficult for me because I have a violin lesson. But I mean, I guess I can try and work around that. But Wednesday would be best for me.
okay, it just can't be at noon or at night.
Oh, I could do during the day. I'm
saying I'm open Wednesday except for 12 to 1 and nighttime.
It would be nice to have a little time to turn it around so we could turn information into the committee a little ahead of time for them to look at.
I know, Kelly, you're still working. So what's your availability like during the week like that?
Wednesday, I could do 10. I have a staff meeting that day as 12:30 Zoom meeting, and I have a council meeting at 9, so I could do like 10 o'clock.
I could
10
do
a.m.
Sound good for everybody else?
I could do 10 a.m.
Okay.
10 a.m. on Wednesday?
I'm sorry, what did you say, Mr. Rooney?
10 a.m. on Wednesday?
Yeah, I will send out an email to the board, just reminding everyone when the meeting is, and also just reiterating the 2 sections. I did send the application in its most updated form to everyone today, so you'll have that.
Sections D and F.
I believe it's D and F, yeah.
Thank you.
You'll see there's several sections. The other thing is the town business office has, they were excellent. They sent me off an updated impact fee statement today. They turned it around really quickly. We have over 300,000 currently, and I will send that out to everyone in impact fees. We are looking at probably losing another small tranche through August of this year. And I think we've lost from 2014 forward already. 2014 through April 2020, there's a grouping there. I think it was about 30,000.
I have a question. I'm wondering how we best move forward in using these funds. I know that they were very interested in working with us to get us to be able to use them. And so I wonder, do we have a discussion around what do we want to use them for and then let them know that? Or do we give them a list of things that we could use them for and say, what's your recommendation? What,
I think it would be we've talked to the planning board. Kathy and I went there, and they indicated that, they would like to help us. I think the best thing that we could do, here's my 2 cents on it. I think in our data binders that we're building, I think we should grab all of the legal opinions around impact fees and refresh ourselves again, put them right into our data packets so we have them to refer. And then come up with some ideas for use based on increased student enrollment, and list those ideas, and perhaps you just submit it to the planning board to see what their thoughts are. And the planning board also asked us for some square footage information at that meeting, which I think we're developing. We can send them that at the same time. And then once we get their feedback, we submit to the Board of Selectmen for them to release funds. We may want to also speak with them to just understand their thoughts as well.
okay.
$310,000.
So maybe if we have a work session from 10 to 12, if we try to spend an hour on the application, then maybe we can also discuss impact fees and maybe some specific uses we want to put those towards. We have the application. I guess I won't understand how to break down. If we want to use impact fees to offset the cost of this build, do we need to break down the specific dollar amounts and where it goes?
Yeah, it'd have to be based on enrollment. They're based on the fact that you have increased enrollment due to builds, and that's why they paid the money in for it. And now you have these needs based on that increased enrollment.
But isn't the fact that we are looking to expand the building based on the fact that we've had increased enrollment, and therefore the build itself would?
You could generalize that. You could, but we can't be really program based.
Right, but I don't think that the reasons for our build are program based. I think that we have a need for more space because we have more students. I don't know. Does every
conversation? I mean, we're talking about preschool, and right now we can't get all of our kids through preschool as much as, like, say, Northwood can, because it's not located here. So we have a situation there. We had the higher enrollment in kindergarten with the 60 students. We have some bubbles tracking through, difficulties providing some of the hands-on science items because, they were built for much smaller class sizes. So yeah. but it's a good thing to brainstorm and just
Okay.
focus on.
All right, so for our work session, I have 3 topics in mind: the application, impact fees, and an initial discussion on preschool. It won't be a long discussion on preschool, but I think we should start that discussion.
Yeah, because we've been having it and I think we've started it, but we haven't really moved along. I would respectfully request we post it as a special meeting as opposed to a workshop, so we're not subject to as many limitations, and then we can vote. Workshops, we typically can't vote. I'm not saying we're going to, but we'd like to have the option.
Yep,
If we need
okay.
to go into non-public for something, we can't in a work session, but we could in a special meeting.
Yeah, I've got that on the posting that I just wrote out.
Perfect.
So it
Thank
would basically be sources and uses of, funding and alternatives, potential alternatives.
Okay. So also coming from our facilities meeting, Mr. Arnold and Miss Kane started like a Google slide kind of document. And it was drafted from the list of comments and questions that came from our last forum. So basically they're making a slide for each of those topics. And we're going to look at that at our next meeting and determine, what pieces of information do we already have? What answers do we need to get? Who will get them? And then we'll have this document in that we can share with the public. Maybe we can have a forum again, whether that's virtual or in person, we don't know. But this way we're addressing everyone's questions and concerns, but also just having the information gathered together in one place. And so that was awesome that they have already started that. And we're going to be.
And I sent them the media today for that after they sent it.
Yep.
Awesome.
And Kathy
And-
provided the initial list, which was helpful.
Yeah. And then just to let you know, in your inbox are a compilation of your impact fee legal opinions over the years in your emails.
Okay.
Thank you.
And
You're
I'll
welcome.
send the spreadsheet.
Also, so anything else from the facility? Oh, Kathy wants to be unmuted. Could you help her? Thank you.
Thank you. I'm not often quiet, so there's something wrong. I really think that it's very important that we do address the issues that those other people had, and also that the checklist I sent told you how many people put that in their comments or their questions. So like the person that wanted us to lower price, the cost of school every year, there was only one person that said that. I'm sure we could probably figure out that was not the top of everybody's list. There were a lot of people that wanted more space, more time for the children, all those other things that they addressed. So, and by putting a number next to it, that shows you the degree of interest in that. And so there were a lot of things that were in the 6, 7, and 8 concerns for people. So that was very good. Also, I want to tell you that the school board ferry stopped by the Nottingham Elementary School yesterday with 300 Lindt chocolate pieces to make the staff happy.
Well, that was nice of the
Well,
school.
that was nice of you. That was great.
So I sent it from all of us.
Oh, thank you, Kathy.
Thank you.
Kathy, you are so good at that. You've done that so many times and you're so thoughtful and kind about that.
Well, I was a teacher for 32 years. I know it helps to be remembered.
Yeah. Anything else out of the facilities update that we want to share? Okay, other committee updates. Communications committee, I reached out to both of you with, the communication plan from Oyster River that Mr. Rooney had sent us. And I think that we need to have a meeting soon to discuss a communication plan for just going forward and what we want to do. Also, I started drafting a community newsletter entry today, and I'll send that to both of you by the end of the weekend so you can review that.
Thanks for doing that.
I was excited. My brain just started working today and I was like, oh, I want to write this down. I needed to get it out of my brain. So that was good. Yeah, any other committee stuff, updates? I think probably, oh, I have questions about the SAU Planning Committee. I saw that there was a posting.
The SAU Planning Committee had their members seated by the moderator. There's a posting and it will, the Planning Committee will have a meeting on Tuesday at 4:45. And we're just going to be, it'll be essentially really our opening meeting to look at some data and start to plan how we're going to approach this.
Right. Okay, great. So at our next meeting, you'll have maybe an update from that meeting.
Right. I think that the way we left it, they're going to look at Stratford's plan just to get an idea. They are looking at just general data around the SAU. We're going to be looking at the costs of the SAU. So I think the plan ultimately will be to look at similarly sized districts. And the management committee has been meeting, and because we're talking about transition there with Stratford leaving, some of that data is being prepared for them for that committee as well. So ultimately, if we're going to do anything, the plan needs to be into the State Board of Education by the end of October, and it would have to come before the board prior to that. So we'll be working over the summer.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so next under others, I have a couple others. Dover dates. Have a proposed meeting date to meet with the Dover School Board on June 11th at 6 p.m. via Zoom. It is, I don't know what day it is. It's a Thursday. And also we should talk about what we would like to talk about at that meeting. Tuition was the number one, I think, reason. And then I also think earlier today, what were we talking about? The
Books, the bridge material
Yeah, for the summer work.
for incoming freshmen
And I think,
and actually all Dover students. So.
yeah, at our last meeting with them in the library, didn't we touch on preparedness?
We did.
And we were going to talk to them about that and things that we could do to enhance that.
Yeah. He also seemed very open. The principal and the board seemed very open to doing summer work for the students that the Dover students that don't normally get summer work.
All right, so that sounds good. And so June 11th, 6 p.m. Okay.
They'll set up I take it, they'll set up
And they'll set up the Zoom meeting. Yep.
Okay.
Great. My only other was I already told you, I think, that I sent the thank yous for the student reps. Anybody else have any others? Okay.
Oh, really quickly for our next meeting, when we do the sheet that we saw the April 15th data going to the state around our additional costs, and there were some areas in the bottom for other costs and maybe some savings, if you recall looking at that. I'm just wondering if we could, for our next meeting, as we develop that conversation, just have that updated as we get closer.
Can you repeat what it was?
I know what it
The
is.
sheet that was created April 15th and submitted to the state that details our costs related to this COVID issue.
Yes.
And I guess my disconnect on it, and I apologize for this to the board, but we're putting together this data and we're submitting it, but it sounds as though it's not a lever for any funding because we're locked to either 85% of Title I or Title II, but it could be only my disconnect. I'm not sure.
I think you just stated that correctly.
So it's more just for informational to
Yeah.
help us
To help
through, but it could be $1 million or $2. It doesn't matter. We're getting the same amount.
right now.
Huh, okay.
Okay. All right. So I think we have to have a non-public, but maybe we should just do a quick public comment first.
We have one member left in public. Last two digits 09. If you have a public comment, please state your name and address.
No comment.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So we had one piece of information we got in our confidential stuff is there anything else for our non-public, Mr. Rooney?
A and C.
Okay, A and C.
Sorry, before we go into non-public, I don't know if anyone has noticed, but we've had more people, we've had more people participate in our school board meetings, aside from times when we have some big hot issue, than I've ever seen before, since before I was on the board. I think it's fantastic that people are able to access us and see what's going on and listen to what's going on. And they don't have to worry about childcare and all of the rest of it. I definitely think this is something that we should continue to look at, because I've never seen so many people participate in our meetings.
Yeah, it's great. I agree.
Okay. All right, so I'll entertain a motion.
So moved. Under A and C, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nate, if you want to stop the recording, and Chris, you and Jeff can leave and just turn over the host to me.
Are we still streaming?
Yes,
What?
I'm waiting for you to vote so that I can stop it.
Oh, okay.
So I need a second.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Okay, we will pull in Ms. DeBrio, yes. Dr. Shabda,
Yes.
Brosnan.
I think we lost her.
Yes.
Oh, we did. Okay. Ms. Levinson
Yes.
and Ms. Gordon.
Yes.
Okay, so we are going into non-public at 4:27. And C. And goodbye to the